So that was the main reason to get rejected. I was asked few questions with clinical scenarios, clinical condition, and I answered them all with the aspect of MSK treatments and management and how I'm going to follow up with the patient. Where I missed on. So the most important part of an FCP is just to give a clear idea of how these conditions should be managed in an FCP setup and how what are you going to do next? Where is the patient going to refer? What options do they have? Excelling or progressing from where I am today.
Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode on Priya Physio's podcast. And today is going to be part two of the podcast that I had with Urvashi Ravindra. And Urvashi Ravindra is a first contact practitioner working in the UK. And we've recorded a part one where Urvashi talks about her master's journey. And this podcast is going to focus on her transition from student to bagging her first MSK role and what all she had to go through and what her career journey will look like for future. Join me in welcoming Urvashi. Hi Urvashi, thanks for joining us.
My pleasure, ma'am, again.
So Urvashi, tell me, we spoke a lot about masters and what you should be doing when you're pursuing masters in the UK, right? Tell me, you might have had 3 to 6 months left for your completion. What was going through your mind and what were you preparing for? Because you knew that this is going to be finished and you've got to get a job. Did you have to look for sponsored jobs? If so, how easy or difficult was it for you?
Right. So, luckily, my time we did had postgraduate visa. So, my main concern was not sponsorship at that time. And yes, as soon as my HCPC arrived, my journey or my hunt for looking for jobs had just started, and I was very keen, as I told you last time, was sending so many applications every day. So more than at least minimum 20 to 30, maximum 50 applications I used to send on Indeed, Glassdoor. And I specifically was not looking at any certain role. At that stage of a student life, we are so I should use this word desperate, to be honest, keen, desperate, like we just want, this is what we are here for in this country, and our goal is to get a job. And I was like, okay, whatever I get, but yeah, related to my field, which is MSK. So that in specific I was looking at. So my target in the job hunt or search was MSK, 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 MSK orthopedics or hospitals, clinics. So luckily, one fine day, after sending so many applications on different application, like the job hunts website, like Indeed, LinkedIn, Glassdoor, and luckily I got a reply one day from Indeed. So this was a company based in Bradford, which was called Heels Medical, and you all won't believe that this was the first physiotherapy role they had started with, and I was the first one to be hired as the physiotherapist.
Wow.
So I Yes, so I was, you can say, fortunate enough, but at the same time, to crack the interview was something I was looking forward to. So this was occupational MSK physiotherapist role. So in this, my main role was creating, working on the ergonomic aspect. So this company which I was working for, they had all nursing staff, which was so our main, when we say occupational health, we work on creating reports, getting back the patient to their old job role. So example, I'll just give you an example to make it more clear and crisp. So if a patient, if there's a nurse, like let's give an example, a 9 to 5 working nurse in an hospital has met with an accident. She has had fracture in the ankle and she wants to get back to work. So she is going to contact one of the occupational health physiotherapists, that would be me. Then I'm going to evaluate her. I'm going to take a detailed assessment. On the basis of assessment, I am going to start making adjustments for her return to work. So depending on her condition, I'm going to decide what adjustments will be made at workplace. So when I talk about adjustments, it would be if as she's a nurse in UK, we all have to do documentation. So she has to use a laptop, a sitting, even if she's doing her clinical work, she has to write reports, she has to do her documentation. So what adjustments? So when we talk about adjustments, my main role was DSC assessment. So DSC assessment will be in which I'm going to see how much is the screen space, like, how much is the space between her eye length and the screen, so that, and what adjustments, as she has ankle fracture, what else she does it need, like a footrest, or basically what all adjustments a patient needs to be smoothly back to work without any disruption. So it could be a phase return depending on her condition, or she can just come back full time with different adjustments. So this was all about my role.
Okay, so thank you so much. That was really detailed. And for anyone who's now looking for that transition as MSK physio, as ortho physiotherapist, you know where all you can look for. Okay. Just before I
Exactly.
summarize what you said, I'm just curious. This was your first job after you completed masters. How long did it take? Was there a
Exactly.
gap after you completed your masters to starting this job?
In the end of the student life phase, we get at least 3 to 4 months to do our final submission, which we call the final research work, which is the evidence based, where we have to submit the final record. So in this time we get 4 months. So I used to go to the uni, but we didn't have full time lectures. So this was the period when I started hunting for jobs more seriously, more keen, more applications I used to send. And this was the time when I bagged my first job role. So I think
Wow.
last 4 to 5 months, to be more precise.
So
Yeah.
you hadn't yet officially completed your masters. You were in that last phase and you bagged this job already.
Yes, that's
Perfect.
right.
Thank you
That's
so much, Urvashi.
absolutely right.
So, what Urvashi said in part one, if you haven't watched part one yet, please go back and watch because then you will know how to be successful and what steps Urvashi took to be in this position where she was content. She had a job. She didn't have to worry about anything. Thank you so much, Urvashi. And out of curiosity, because we have band system in the UK, and most people who come for masters, or even as soon as they come to this country, they think I'll have to either start as, for sub qualified roles like band 3, 4, or people think even if I'm experienced in my country, it's best for me to start at band 6. So, what role was this?
Yeah, so this was completely a private clinic.
Mm-hmm.
So they did not have a band system, but directly when you start looking for jobs, they directly mention on the Indeed website or wherever the job role is mentioned, they just write the title of the job,
Mm.
occupational health physiologist. That's it. So no band as such.
Thank you.
So I don't think private clinics does follow the band system, but to be more clear for this doubt of people, like shall they should they go ahead with the 4, 3, or 5, I would suggest, so back in India, if you have a good experience, that also counts, to be more precise. And also, if you have already done masters, like just like me, I had done it. So I was not looking for 4, and I mean, I don't know about 5, but I was not targeting 4 at all, because 4 is usually an assistant role. So I had that much confidence that yes, if I want to start my career, I was not looking for band 4 at all. But because I was not very keen on getting sponsorship, so that's why, because I already had my PSW going on. So that was my main I mean, job hunt specification, wherein I just looked for MSK roles
Perfect.
specifically.
So, for those who were slightly confused listening to the band system and what Urvashi and why I were talking about, it's actually a salary range that you have in the UK while you work as a qualified physiotherapist. Okay. So it starts at band 5, which is a band 5, and there is a salary range. So if you're unsure about what is your salary range, whether you're going to be working at a junior physio level, a senior, or a clinical specialist level, if you match that up with NHS jobs bandings, you will understand whether it was your band 5 or band 6. And that is where you realize that you're not going to be a junior physio, but you're going to be a senior physio. And by what Urvashi is
Exactly.
saying, and if it's a private company, I think because she was the only physio, I think it should be a band 6 where you have that seniority, you have that understanding. Okay.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
after that, just want to summarize. Okay. I love summarizing because I think it's with my recent experience of chairing meetings and all of that. So what, Urvashi? Yes, go on. You wanted to say something.
So that's what helps in the conversation to flow when you summarize, Then I also get a thought, okay, next is this, which I could just speak about. So that
Perfect.
really helps, which is a very good way.
Thank you. Thank you. So, Urvashi, you mentioned during your answer about MSK Ortho. You were so focused and driven. MSK Ortho, you must have mentioned it a few times. Why you did that? Because you had that clarity. Okay. And that is
Exactly.
something which I teach in my weekly webinars, which is niche clarity. You should, and she also mentioned about act of confidence. She was like, I was confident. I knew I'm not going to look for band four roles because I believe in myself and I knew I could do these roles. So Urvashi very politely said two important things there. One is she was clear with her niche. She knew exactly what she wanted. Number two, that made her even more confident that this is what I want, and I'm sure I have enough knowledge to deliver any kind of role in any setting that I go in. Okay, and that's the
Absolutely.
confidence you have to bring out, right? And finally,
Absolutely.
one question for you, okay? It's an occupational MSK physio role, right? You might have
Yeah.
heard, and it's okay if you don't know about these roles, there are some functional disability assessor roles as well. Is this role
Yes.
similar
Yeah.
to that or is it different? Because I'm sure there'll be other viewers who are thinking, is it that role that you've done?
So no, functional assessor is completely way different, and I feel it is more of a remote role as well. So I forgot to mention one more thing. 2 days I used to work also as an MSK. So I used to also see patients in like one on one in a clinic, wherein I used to give them treatments, and we I used to follow the NICE guidelines, and according to the NICE guidelines I used to also give them hands-on treatment following each and every guideline with that
Mm-hmm.
aspect. So there were many patients who had already returned to work but still had few things that need to be having a follow up with the physiotherapist. So that's when they used to come to me. So 2 days I used to also work as completely MSK than occupational health. The other days I used to write their reports, as I just said. And with that report writing, my writing style has become so good, to be honest, as we spoke in the last time as well. Like, their vocabulary is different, their way of writing emails is also very different. We spoke about how is their spoken English, but at the same time what we write. So example, I used to write kind regards. My manager taught me it has to be kindest regards. So just an example, I'm not saying kind regards is wrong, but few things, many abbreviations and a lot of detailing in writing, so that it is smooth and crisp for everyone to understand your report, because your report is going to be read by your manager plus the official managers of their operating heads, whoever is in the clinical head. They are so that they understand very clearly. Within 2 to 3 minutes they should understand what you have written. So with that I learned on how to write on. So now also when I write an email at my current role, I know, what all words and abbreviations to use.
Perfect,
So
perfect. Just
that's
reminded me, one of
the
my friends
difference.
used to say when Priya and my husband actually said, when they both reply to WhatsApp messages, they usually write as if it's a official professional email because they'll always say hi somebody and then at the end they would say whatever, kind or
Exactly.
love
Yeah.
and something. And they're like, why do you have to do that every time? I said, because we are habituated to work emails so much that we just feel if we don't address somebody in person at the beginning and we don't say what was the feeling that we were responding to you, because it's family and friends,
Absolutely.
love, comma, and then you will write your name.
Yeah.
Why do you have
Yeah.
to do that? We know it's you because it's your WhatsApp message, we've saved your number.
You're
But
so
I feel
used to
that's
it.
exactly, and that's the way
Yeah.
that you learn your communication skills. Okay, thank you. So tell me, Urvashi, very swiftly moving on from this occupational MSK physio role to your FCP role. Okay, how long
Absolutely.
did it take for you to feel confident to apply for a new job? Okay. And what skills and competencies you built along the way, like all the way, like masters we've talked about. What helped you to get into FCP role?
Unfiltered honesty here. So when I started writing report writing kind of job, I was happy, I was very content, there was job satisfaction, everything. But to be very honest, I wanted a pay rise. So I was happy, but then I was like, okay, now I should start doing some sort of research work by talking to my seniors, by talking to my colleagues at different my uni friends who were at different clinics. So I started talking to them and understanding how can I grow, because we being to use this word correctly, we being an ambitious and passionate about, I mean, I have seen physios, so let's categorize it this way. Physios are ambitious and passionate, and we don't want to constantly stop at certain role. It's not about only pay, but we want to keep growing. That's what we are here for. That's the main whole soul reason to come and switch countries to come for. So my goal was A, pay rise, B, I want to grow, I want to learn more, I want to understand what else is in store for me as an MSK physiotherapist in the UK. So then I spoke to one of my friend who was already practicing in London. So yes, then comes the main part of switching cities. So this job role, as I said, I was living in Leeds, and this was in Bradford. So I used to travel between Leeds and Bradford, which was a good convenient travel, wasn't like too chaotic or hectic. But then at the same time, I wanted to move to London. So being Indian, being grown up, seeing Bollywood movies as well, I had like, wow, I am good, I want to work in London. I mean, yes, physiotherapy was one of the reasons, but and growing was, yes, but then I was like, wow, I want to move to London, like I want to explore, I want to see. Even if I don't like it, I may come back to Leeds, but I want to just switch and understand. So I started hunting for roles for MSK physiotherapist, band 6 plus FCP. So that was something which really attracted me towards. I was like, wow, this is quite interesting. First contact practitioner. As my friend was already working as FCP. So she used to tell me, you know what, I'm so happy that I am doing something different than what I was doing back in India. This is a really a different kind of role which you should also explore. So then I started doing some sort of research work, and yes, that's how I decided, yes, my next aim or my next hunt or my job search would be related to FCP as well as MSK. Also, I was checking side by side.
Perfect. Thank you. Amazing. Now, as you were talking, I was noting down a few points which I felt were really important, and you just mentioned them in the flow. So, just to break down to everyone, what Urvashi said, two things that were important to her as a human being, which is going to be important for you as well, whether you agree it, whether you say it or not. Okay. Number one is you want the pay rise. Everyone wants that. You don't,
Exactly.
yeah, that's one. Number
Exactly.
two was because you're a human being, if you want that pay rise, learning is the only way to upgrade yourself so that you get that upgraded salary. Okay, so they go hand in
Exactly.
hand, whether you believe it or not. You need to be learning at the same time to get that pay rise. Otherwise, neither is this growing now, nor is that growing. Only one thing grows, that is your frustration. And one thing which is lack of confidence. You start losing confidence and think maybe I'm not meant to be where I'm trying to be. Okay. So all this,
Absolutely.
yeah, so all this happens with your lifelong learning commitment. Thank you. And another thing Urvashi mentioned, I was talking to my friends, my seniors and my colleagues. She wasn't talking. There is a term for this. We call it networking. Okay. We
Exactly
so
right. Yes.
politely use it. I talk to so many physios. Actually, you're networking. And because you're networking, if your friend knows somebody who can help you, your friend is going to give you the contact of that other person who you are then going to contact, and that is going to be your networking. Like you will be a pro networker. You're talking, no, you're networking with fellow physios and others in healthcare industry. Okay. Thank you so much, Urvashi. You're just getting everyone to the point. Okay. Now, because you mentioned MSK and FCP, and you were using them interchangeably, you said I wanted MSK, but I wanted FCP as well. It's something different. Tell me what is the difference?
So MSK. Again, so let me be more elaborative about this. So, MSK physiotherapist, if you're going into private clinic setup, it'll be more of hands-on. Do everyone follows nice guidelines, so I wouldn't say completely, getting onto hands-on means a complete hands-on here, but everyone follows a proper protocol and nice guidelines. So when you're going into private clinics also, there are clinics like One Body London, Ealing Physiotherapy. So there are certain clinics that practices hands-on techniques, and this sort of hands-on will be purely MSK into private clinics. Now, coming on to MSK at NHS. So, there you could have both documentation of whatever you are seeing the patients, you're sending them for classes, you're referring them to other sort of group classes, or accordingly, as I also mentioned, so a psychosocial approach, depending on whatever kind of patients you see. So, MSK at a semi private kind of clinic, which is a private setup but works for NHS, will have a completely different role. So MSK is this with private and NHS. Second, first contact practitioner. So the name itself says. So what we are doing is we are offloading the load of a general practitioner by helping them in seeing a patient in their setup. So GP is just next door. You're sitting next to the GP, not in the same room, of course. You'll have your separate clinic room where you are called the first contact practitioner, meaning the patient is walking in first to you. The patient might not have gone to the GP first, but it is coming to you. So you are the one deciding what is the next step of the patient. So you can also get neuro cases. You can get a CES patient walking in, an emergency patient. A patient has just walked in and has needs emergency attention. So there could be any sort of case. So you won't get a filtered patient of only MSK or orthopedics, but you can get any sort of case walking in. You can get a wrist drop case. And I mean, example. So first contact practitioner is basically offloading the load of a GP by working in the same primary healthcare setup. So that's the difference between the two.
Thank you. Thank you. So it looks like from what you are saying, these two roles are completely different. So people who don't know yet what FCP does and what MSK physios do, FCPs sit in a GP surgery. GP, for those who don't understand GP and this terminology, it's like a family doctor in your home country where you go and see the doctor first. They will look after you at that point and they will then refer you onwards to whichever service is appropriate for you. Okay. So that's what it
Absolutely.
is. Yeah. Thank you so much for clarifying that, Urvashi. Now let's move on to the next point. As you said, there is a difference between two roles. I'm sure competencies that you have to prove to get into FCP are completely different because you're not only treating MSK, but you could get any type of patient as a first contact practitioner. Tell me what are the differences?
Absolutely. So I'll rather explain you on how I prepared for FCP interviews.
Okay.
So that will give more clarity to everyone as well.
Mm.
So first interview which I gave it was for pure physiotherapy. So pure physiotherapy, I keep getting openings for first contact practitioner. So this was the clinic where I gave my first interview. So this was my very first interview. So happily I got rejected. so
Mm.
so I am going to explain so what I worked on. So here I understood where I'm going wrong. So we have the same phenomena of mixing MSK with FCP. That's where I went wrong. So I prepared myself absolutely with MSK point of view, all MSK conditions, starting from all the joints, just conditions, treatment, management, how I'm going to see. I read about the NICE guidelines, everything, all MSK perspective. But I did not know what an FCP does in the clinic. I was completely unaware about this role because I had not practiced. I had just spoken, as we said. I just done networking. And so when you speak also, come on, you don't understand everything in detail because when you're only sitting in the clinic and dealing with patients, I think if I would have shadowed or observed someone that time, I would have understood it more clearly. So that was the main reason to get rejected. I was asked few questions with clinical scenarios, clinical condition, and I answered them all with the aspect of MSK treatments and management and how I'm going to follow up with the patient. where I missed on. So the most important part of an FCP is red flags. And I think it is with MSK as well. I wouldn't say only FCP, but MSK also here in the UK. You have to always see that the patient should not have any red flags. And if they have, what are you doing about it? The patient should not walk off the clinic room without like you have to observe them, treat them, and then only the patient is going to walk off. That's how you are accomplishing your role in the system. So that's one thing I went wrong on, which was the red flag. So if the patient is come with red flags, where I'm going to refer the patient next. So basically, to be more precise and clear, to make everyone more easier for this, clinical pathways. Clinical pathways is something very, very important in a first contact practitioner role. So you should have a clinical pathway, logical, evidence based for every condition. So, if there is an upper motor neuron lesion, if there is a spinal condition, if there is a fracture, if there is a dislocation, if there is carpal tunnel syndrome, if there is CRPS, there are so many conditions on and on. I think that will be a lot to speak about conditions here, but just to give a clear idea of how these conditions should be managed in an FCP setup and how you are going to deal with the red flags if you see with any sort of conditions. How are you going to explain what options do you have? A patient is walking in, you have to explain them with three options. What are you going to do next? Where is the patient going to refer? What options do they have? Do they have pain relief steroid injections? Where do they want to go back to physiotherapy first? Third, do you want to give them surgical options? So this is something which I was not aware, and I happily took the rejection because yes, I was not aware and I am in a learning process. So I was happily, as I said, I was not disappointed at all with this rejection, but I understood, okay, that's where I'm going wrong. Even my husband, when I used to get rejected, he used to be like, oh, you're not sad, why? I said, because I'm learning. And he also used to say the same, where did you go wrong? Just work on those things, redo it again. I used to wake up early in the morning just to read about neuro as well, about the nerve roots, about neuro aspect of certain conditions. So to be honest, I did neuro studies as well for neurological MSK as well for this kind of role. And as I said, red flags and clinical pathways. So this
Perfect.
was my preparation.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm so amazed with the way you speak, Urvashi, because you almost touch on all those points which are really important for anyone, not
Thank you,
just
ma'am.
physios, for any professional, if you want to grow in your career. You mentioned a beautiful point when your husband said, "Why are you not sad?" Okay, and you said, "Because I'm learning." There is something, okay, this is what I believe in as well. That's why I think we vibe together, Urvashi. There is no such thing as losing. There are only two things. You either win and be successful, or you learn and you move on. So
Absolutely.
what do you choose? Do you want to just say that I'm not a winner, I'm a loser? Or do you want to say that it's okay, I didn't win today, but I've learned and next time I'm going to improve this particular thing? So moving on from FCP, MSK, and all of that, you touched a beautiful point on mindset. And that I can't stop myself from asking. What are some of the mindsets that early career physios need to hone in order to prepare themselves for band 7 or clinical leadership roles?
Right. So now things have changed from what I had experienced to 2025 has completely changed. Now, all the clinical experts are expecting if you're joining as an FCP, it'll be via university. You have to go through a proper course which will be sponsored or funded by the company itself. Again, there are certain companies who does, and there are self-funded courses as well, which I am not very aware about self-funded, but I'm very much sure about the funded courses. So now FCP has to go via university. So now things have changed a bit, and I wouldn't discourage, but it is little more difficult to get on to FCP right now because lot of changes are happening. So if there is an opening for a first contact practitioner, you can prepare the way just I explained to you. keeping in the background your MSK knowledge plus working on the NICE guidelines, reading it briefly, evidence based practice, red flags, clinical pathways, clinical scenarios in an FCP setup, how you're going to deal with it. And to come back to your question, your whole outlook should be targeting for band 6 roles, plus wherever there is an FCP opening, just go for it, just go for it. And as ma'am also said, if you're rejected, you're learning in the process. If I haven't got rejected from pure physiotherapy, I wouldn't have got this role what I'm working as today. So I think the whole point is that you have to explore, keep targeting for band 6 and 7 FCP as well. If you have had good UK experience, anybody would hire you as a band 7. There is no certain criteria that you have to go via, but you can be hired if you have good experience in India. That is again optional, but if you have good UK experience, which is important, you can directly go for FCP roles. But without a UK experience, it is very difficult to be hired. So as I said, I started with an occupational health physio. That's when I applied for FCP roles. So
Perfect.
that should be the outlook.
Thank you so much. You've covered 2 points here. One is mindset, and you very rightly said it has to start from early career. Okay, so
Exactly.
we are following a golden thread here. If you have not realized by now, and if you're not paying enough attention, and if you're not sitting with a pen and paper, you need to sit with a pen and paper to write down whatever Urvashi is saying, because these are golden nuggets that are coming out, okay, in this interview, in this podcast today. So what she said is, okay, the golden thread is niche clarity. Be clear while you are a student, when you want to pursue masters in like if you're overseas qualified, you want to pursue masters abroad, it is expensive. So you've got to be absolutely clear, this is exactly what I want to do as my niche. And then you are so clear on
Exactly.
what next for you. Okay. And FCPs, as you know, that you don't always have to be pure MSK, because FCP, you see any type of condition. So even if you're a neurophysiotherapist, I wouldn't discourage you from applying for FCP roles because you bring your own skill set. Okay. Like Urvashi learned
Absolutely.
neurophysio would learn MSK if that is required for the role. And red flags, I don't think red flag is always limited to just MSK or neuro. Red flags are in all the specialties. Okay, so you've got to
Exactly.
remember that. And second thing about mindset is the outlook that we said. Okay, either you
Yes.
succeed, okay, that is winning, or you learn and you move on to the next opportunity. But never ever think that you are a loser. Thank you. And you,
Absolutely.
thank you. And you also touched on international applicants. I was going to ask you that, but you've already said that if you are somebody with, say, I've seen physios who've come to this country after 10, 15 years of clinical experience in their home country. That shouldn't define who you are in this country. I mean, that should define who you are in this country, because you cannot go for a band 5 role thinking I'm new, I don't know what I'm doing, because that part you will learn. But if you have those skill sets, go for band 6, band 7, band 8A. All you've got to do is get some knowledge in the background and build your knowledge about the pathways, about everything else, about guidelines. Where do you think? But as a physiotherapist, you are more than ready to go for any type of roles where you are confident in. Okay, so don't limit
Right.
yourself. Perfect. Now let's move to you. Okay, let's not give any advice. Tell me what you are doing now. What's your next step? So from FCP, where do you see yourself going next, especially as a new mom?
Right. So, to be again coming back to finances, about expenses. So, let's be very practical and clear. I don't want to give everyone, like, everything is in a platter. If you have bagged an FCP role, everything is fine. Now, as I have a baby, my financial challenges have become more not difficult, I would say, but little challenging. There would be extra expenses for my baby, and right now, as both of us are working, we are able to manage. But again, being Indian, me being my dad's daughter, I he always taught me, keep growing, you have reached here, keep growing. So again, networking. I have started speaking to many physios who are at managerial roles, who are at leadership roles, as ma'am always say, as ma'am is also one of them. And I have taken her advice as well on this. So, coming to excelling or progressing from where I am today, I am going to start targeting for APP roles, advanced physiotherapy practitioner roles. So, this is again a leadership role wherein you need to have qualification at, again, you need to go back to university to, specialize in certain things, which could be ultrasonography, ultrasound, or more of injection therapies. Different courses are there, whatever you are interested in. You need to go via self-funded courses, or you can talk to your senior managers at work, your supervisors, and understand on how you can get onto these courses. When you go through them, then only you can apply for APP. I mean, this is again according to my knowledge and networking so far. If people have bagged APP roles without doing these courses, then I'm not aware, but according to my knowledge, you need to study more and more, and that's my next aim. I want to study more, and then maybe I'm going to apply for these roles. That's my next agenda. And yes, and as I said, it's going to be expensive. She's not yet started going to the daycare, but I am going to go through that process and understand on how much my expenses are. By God's grace and by my hard work, I think I am able to manage so far, and it is all good. I mean, London life, busy, expensive, still good, as I'm working as band 7 FCP. So I'll be honest, and I am content and satisfied. But yes, in future, I'm going to aim for this. As I said, I don't want to stop.
Perfect. Thank you. And you shouldn't stop. Okay. If you have that hunger for more, why not? Go for it. Okay. Sky's the limit.
Definitely.
Just going back, you have been talking a lot about networking. Okay. So let's touch on that a little bit. When you say
Right.
networking, what do you mean by networking? Is it like, do you see people physically? Or what methods do you use to network? And what is your thought on LinkedIn?
So, networking, first and foremost, WhatsApp groups. So, WhatsApp community groups. So, you have to find out which is the WhatsApp group that is going to help you in clearing your small doubts, which could be a silly doubt according to others, but some groups that are, voluntarily helping people. A. Second, LinkedIn. As LinkedIn is the best network for networking. Target all the first contact practitioners clinics. Pure physiotherapy is one. Primary healthcare physiotherapy is one. So many, you will just put on Google, you will get so many clinics. Follow them, attend their free webinars. There are so many free webinars happening, free CPDs happening in these clinics website, and even on their LinkedIn profiles. So when you follow them, you understand that okay, even if you attend one webinar or CPD, free CPD, you will understand what exactly is the clinical scenario, the picture of how these people are working, and they are understanding the clinical conditions well. So this is one thing. And second thing, when it comes to networking, talk to your friends, talk to your colleagues, talk to your batchmates if you have studied in the uni here. And yeah, I mean, there everyone is helpful. So far, my friends also have been very supportive and helpful, and everyone in the uni, my friends, they have this attitude that okay, everyone should grow. So I have been fortunate enough to get such friends who have been really helped me in guiding, and as they help me, I'm going to help somebody else tomorrow. So I always have kept this attitude, even if after coming to UK, that you have to help everyone, and each one help one one another. So this is one thing.
Thank you. Thank you. So you've touched on, okay, so those who are still noting down what Urvashi is saying, number one thing, find local or regional WhatsApp groups where you can join and you can ask your queries. No question is a silly question. You have to have that mentality. You don't know the answer. It could be that there are several others who don't know the answer too, but they're hesitant to ask. So you asking that question, you're not only helping yourself, but unknowingly you're helping several other people. Okay, that's number one. Number two was LinkedIn, best platform for professional networking. Okay, follow those clinics, LinkedIn groups, those people who you admire, who've been on the same path where you want to be, who've already walked the path that you are going to walk. They are going to give you lots of advice, and they are going to do it out of, helping you, as opposed to, you know, uh,
Courtesy, yeah.
that's it, courtesy. They're not going to be thinking you're going to be their rival. Okay, no one ever thinks that in
Exactly.
professional platform. But again, in networking, one thing you should remember, and if you have not yet looked at my book, The Leadership Guide for Physios, you should remember there is a chapter on networking here. First thing that people are scared about networking is, what if I fail? That fear of rejection.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, I have been subtly rejected so many times when I approached somebody face to face. I mean, phone call is fine, WhatsApp is okay, but face to face, that's like the worst feeling you will ever get, and you will just feel so
Yeah.
deflated and demotivated. If they don't align with what you're asking, if you don't vibe with them, if you don't see their body language in a positive way, leave it and move on. There are different kinds of people. So please don't stop yourself from networking because you've had one bad experience somewhere in your life. Okay?
Absolutely. Very
So,
well said. One more thing, ma'am, I want to
yeah.
mention,
Mm-hmm.
take feedback when you're rejected. So, there are many good HRs and many good clinical leads that would send you a proper elaborated email on why you got rejected. And as I said, if you have that, you know what to work on. You know
Mm-hmm.
where you were lagging enough, and you know where to exactly pinpoint and work on. So brush up those skills wherever which you understand in the feedback, like you were lacking here, so work on that. So I think many people are giving feedback nowadays of rejections as well.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for touching on that. And it is useful. Otherwise, what you're going to do next time when you get another interview, you're going to prepare exactly in the same way and you're going to get another rejection, which is only going to lower your confidence. So, well said. Thank you so
Right.
much, Urvashi, for that. Now, you've mentioned about APP for your path, but I'm sure you would have looked at other ways, other things in which are equivalent to APP for 8A, band 8A and plus. Okay. What are those other comparable roles?
Right. So one of them is ESP,
Mm-hmm.
ESP which we already have where I'm working. So ESP roles are we have clinics like wherein we are going to be the ESP, which is band 8, works with the band 7, wherein we have patients walking in and where directly we are assessing, understanding what the patient needs and giving them injection therapy, which includes, yes, steroid injection, again taking a proper consent, understanding what the patient is actually ready for this. So first doing ultrasound and then giving injection. So ESP is something also which I am aware and have seen practicing people. I've seen people practicing the same, and I might, yes, may consider that as well. But then again, I feel that I need more learnings, I need more guidance. So, yes, when I join back, I'm going to have a word with my supervisor about this as well. Once again, to be more precise, once I finish my roadmap, so First Contact Physiotherapist has a roadmap one, stage one, stage two. So when I finish that plus my competencies, then yes. So yes, so here we need to follow a proper path. I cannot directly jump onto it. I need to be more experienced in my current role first. So yes, I want to touch this point very well, so that if I am sure that yes, I have enough knowledge, I have practiced enough as a first contact practitioner, and coming to documentation, everyone they won't see, okay, she has 2 years or 3 years of experience in first contact, so she can jump on to 8. No, they are going to see documentation. As I said, it works on evidence based. So evidence based is what she has done her reflections. So when I say reflections, she has done her case studies, she has seen these kind of patients. So when we say reflections, if a patient has walked into my clinic, what well did I do for the patient? Was the patient's content satisfied? Did I take patient's feedback? So reflection will include all this. So this will be maintained in my portfolio. So each one of us as a first contact practitioner has a portfolio. So even if a patient has given me a good comment or a feedback, that has to be documented. So this was told by my supervisor. One day I was very happy. I was like, wow, the patient walked in so happy. Urvashi, so good. You did this, that. And I happily went to my supervisor and I said, the patient complimented me. He's like, no, I don't know. I won't believe unless you have on the feedback form. So this was also one learning. So if a patient is complimenting, you have to do everything documented. Nobody will just believe you because this is one very important thing that is helpful in my portfolio. So as I said, if I have all this lined up and systematically documented in my portfolio, then only personally I feel I would be confident enough to apply for 8 or ESP or APPs or any sort of other roles which I am eligible for. Let's say that. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Thanks for touching on the feedback point and evidence base. Because when I worked as a community physiotherapist, I had some feedback forms in my bag ready. Okay, I used to hand it out at my first initial assessment. Okay, initial assessment, and when I was about to discharge somebody, I used to hand it over again. I used to ask them, I gave you that feedback form, do you still have it? Because they would compliment you when you finish your
Right.
your treatment, your duration with that patient. They are going to compliment you. They're going to say something about you, about your service. They are not, it's not always positive. There is always a negative as well, about the team, about the service, about somebody not being kind to them, etc. And at that point, I used to be so ready. I was like, this is the feedback form. This is the number for PALS team. PALS is again your advice and liaison service for every team, every service. If you have a good feedback, please write it on this form, which I'll take back to my service. If you
Absolutely.
want something which is something that you don't like about our service and you really want to take it higher, you can call them and it will be confidential completely. So that's how proactive I used to be. And you learn these things. As you go through
Exactly.
your journey in UK, you are going to learn how to do everything and you'll have everything ready with you, right? So let me touch a little bit more about Band 8A roles and above, okay, for those who are listening to Urvashi today.
Thank you. Yes,
We've
that will
talked
be helpful
about,
for me as well.
yes, so we've talked about APP, okay? We've talked about ESP, which is Extended Scope Practitioner. There is something called as Advanced Clinical Practitioner, and there is Advanced Community Practitioner, okay? Now, these two roles usually are employer funded, okay? Where you will be eligible to be a trainee at Band 7, and at the end of the duration of training, then you will be automatically getting into a Band 8A. But these roles are not directly physiotherapy. You are going to widen your scope slightly, where advanced clinical practitioner is similar to a junior doctor, where you'll be doing, ward rounds, on calls, and all of that in an acute hospital. You also have ACPs at GP surgeries. You also have ACPs in community hospitals, right? And then you have advanced community practitioners who are similar to a community matron. Okay, if people are working in
Right.
community, know that. So you will be doing some of the responsibilities that a community matron does for her cohort.
Wow.
Okay. So these are two more pathways for you if you are somebody who wants to widen their scope and fulfill their parents' dreams, especially you're Indian, that they wanted you to be doctors. Okay, so it's still not late. You can still widen your scope and go into such roles where you are more or less doing a little bit of everything. So, one final tip, okay, that any overseas qualified physio or a newly qualified physio should remember after this podcast. One tip, please.
Very thoroughly prepare for your interviews. So I'll give a brief. I speak to every day. I speak on this topic at least to one physio, especially who are also applying internationally. So yes, clinically you are strong. You have studied for almost 5 years. You have also done your masters. If you are clinically strong, but try to understand the nice guidelines, the clinical governance, red flags, clinical pathways, and start also reading about the neurophysiotherapy as well. Not only focusing on MSK, you should know everything. So basically, like the whole agenda to clear the interview will be fulfilled if you know how UK works. So read about nice guidelines. There is ortho bullets. There are many. Read articles. Read recent articles that are very very helpful. So you can switch to other things when you have done your clinical study. So how I always tell every physio to read about clinical. Sorry, you said one point, but I'm just elaborating. So starting on to joints, like starting from spine, cervical, spine, shoulder, each joint, what all are the MSK conditions, plus what all are the red flags. For each condition, a pathway is different. UMN, a pathway is different. LMN, a pathway is different. How the patient is presenting to you in the clinic, it's different. Fractures, the pathway is different. Dislocations, pathway is different. Your generic criteria, your demographic data also differs on how the patient, where is the patient going to go next. If the patient is pediatric, we only see after 18 years of age. So where is the patient going to go next as the patient is pediatric? If the patient is geriatric, what could be the cases? So in your mind you should know everything, every small aspect. Your assessment has to be on point. Your subjective, objective, short term goals, long term goals, everything has to be pit and pat, precisely, systematically. And don't be nervous. It's, you are going to shiver, you are going to stammer, it's okay. But take gaps, speak well, do watch few British English series on Netflix, improvise your English. Sometimes you know the answer, but you don't know how to speak in a flow. So I did that as well. I watched The Crown on Netflix to make my British English, understand, as I said, slangs, their words, everything is different. So yeah, I think, yeah, that's it. And you will be able to crack the interview. And I'll be happy to know these testimonies that this podcast was useful, and you are successful. So we'll be obliged and very happy that yes, now we serve the purpose. So thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you, Urvashi. Thanks a lot. And just what Urvashi said, please take it seriously. Please subscribe to this channel, okay? And comment below one thing that you absolutely loved, because every single person who's going to watch this podcast is going to have something different in their mind which they want to learn. So your one tip could be different from somebody else's one tip. So please write down one tip that you liked and how you're going to implement that in your own career journey. Okay, so that's it. And if people haven't yet realized, since part one and part two in both the podcasts, there was a golden thread that was following. Okay, you've got to watch it really carefully, don't take it lightly. Number one was communication skills. Urvashi has rightly touched on communication skills right from verbal communication to written communication to body language.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that is your
Absolutely.
communication skill masterclass in these two podcasts. And number two was about networking. How to network is something that we were touching on throughout these two podcasts. So you've got to go and watch part one if you haven't already done that. Okay. And at this point, I would like to thank Urvashi, who's also set up a WhatsApp group called Physio United. The link will be in the bio. So you can click onto that WhatsApp invite link and join in that group. Okay. I also
Thank
host
you so
weekly
much.
webinars on Physio Leadership Launchpad, which are completely free for those who are thinking, I'm not ready for leadership yet. Guys, it's leadership, you as a person, which I'm focusing on, not on your job titles. So even if you're a student, if you're a band 5, a band 6, no matter where you are absolutely going to love this particular webinar, and it is for free. So you all you can do is take your time out and come and join that webinar. All right then.
Super.
Thank you. Thank you everyone. Bye.
Thank you so much.
Bye.